Hello everyone, I'm Tony with Architect Fitness, and in this video, we're going to be comparing MyFitnessPal to Avatar Nutrition. If you are at all interested in fitness and nutrition, and you aren't familiar with tracking your macros, you need to get with the times. Right now, tracking your macros is all the rage, and for good reason. Not only does it work, but it's never been easier to do thanks to technologies like smartphones, the internet, and services like MyFitnessPal and Avatar Nutrition. MyFitnessPal is probably the most popular food journaling, diary, or tracking app there is, and Avatar Nutrition is one of the newer players in the game. There are tons of apps and services popping up all over the place. Now, I picked Avatar and MyFitnessPal because MFP is probably the most popular tracking app, and Avatar is a system that I have personally used with great success. So we're going to talk about the pros and cons of each, and which one I think is better. First, let's talk about the things that I like about MyFitnessPal. The big thing is that they do have a free version. So if you're new to tracking your food and just want to get a feel for it, this can be a great option without making any type of financial commitments. I do think that the premium version is definitely worth the money if you decide you're going to work with MyFitnessPal long term, and it does have a lot of nice features, but the free version is a good way to get started just to see if you like the app. Secondly, the food database in MyFitnessPal is huge. Pretty much everything you can think of is going to be in there, and if it's not, you can add your own foods. But if you're going out to eat at popular restaurants or buying the grocery store versions of particular foods, they're usually going to be in MyFitnessPal. Now, there is a caveat to this, which is that the food database is user-generated. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later on. Another great feature of MyFitnessPal is it's super easy to create your own meals or recipes and save them for later use. So if you're making home-cooked meals with a lot of different ingredients, you only have to go through the process of adding that together once in MyFitnessPal, then you can save it as a recipe and making it easier to track later on. Another great thing about MyFitnessPal is their barcode scanner, which works very well. Most food tracking apps have a barcode scanner where you can scan the barcode on a particular food or food item, and this will look up the item that you're tracking, and it makes it really easy because you don't have to manually punch into a search bar the food that you're looking for. MyFitnessPal scanner works exceptionally well. It doesn't matter if I'm in a dark lit room, a brightly lit room, if the label is half torn off, if it's upside down, if there's a lot of glare coming off the packaging, the barcode scanner seems to get it quickly every single time. A few of the smaller things that I like about MyFitnessPal, first of all, it does have a social aspect. You can add friends, which is very helpful as a coach. I can look at clients' journals to see what they're eating. Or if you want to get an idea and get inspired on what to eat, you can look at your friends' journals to get some ideas on meals and foods for yourself. And the last thing that I like, and it's a pretty small detail, is you can set custom names for your meals. The standard names that when you load MyFitnessPal are breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. I don't really think of my meals that way. I usually do only eat meals. I don't snack a lot. So I have it as meal 1 through 6. And this helps me organize and see where I'm eating certain foods throughout the day. And that's a nice feature for me. There are a ton of more features in MyFitnessPal, so we definitely didn't cover all of them, but those are some of the highlights. Now let's talk about the things I don't like about MFP. First of all, I will say as a coach and someone that understands nutrition science, the recommended macros and calories that MyFitnessPal usually gives people aren't great. I find that they often prescribe calories that are too low, and I do have a theory about this, which is they want you to continue to use their app. So if they put you on a very low calorie diet, you will lose weight and you'll think, hey, this is working, and you'll want to keep using it. Now, there's a bunch of reasons why you don't want to lose weight too quickly, and we won't get into all of them, but the major ones are if you diet right away on very low calories, you don't have a lot of margin or room to change once you plateau. Also, when you lose weight really quickly, a lot of that weight can come from muscle or water weight, and ideally you want all of your weight loss to come from fat. So if you're losing a lot of muscle tissue, even though you might feel good because you're losing weight, you're not losing the right kinds of weight. So losing weight at a more slow, steady pace is actually better for long-term results. So I would say MyFitnessPal's macro and calorie recommendations aren't great. The second really big drawback to MyFitnessPal is their food database. And I know I listed this as one of the pros, but hear me out. Their food database is user generated. That means if I were to create a food, or if you were to create a food, then someone else could search and find and put that food onto their diary. The only problem is MyFitnessPal doesn't have any checks and balances to make sure that what the person entered in was actually correct. And this kind of annoys me because this is something they could easily fix by making sure that the math of the macros adds up to the total calories. So here's a really quick crash course on nutrition science. 1 gram of protein has 4 calories, 1 gram of carbs has 4 calories, and 1 gram of fat has 9 calories. So for example, if you were to eat a food that had 1 gram of each macronutrient in it, you would have by default eaten 17 total calories. But MyFitnessPal will let you put in any information that you want. So for example, you could put a food into MyFitnessPal and say that it had 500 calories, but 0 grams of protein, 0 grams of carbs, and 0 grams of fat. Now, if you're someone that's only tracking calories, this might make sense for you, but for those of us who are tracking macros, which is what you should be doing, it's not going to work. And this can create a big hurdle for people that are getting into tracking their food and hitting their macros. And anything that's going to dissuade you from doing that is not good. It can be difficult to build the habit of tracking your food and hitting your macros. So you don't want any roadblocks or any reasons to throw in the towel and not do it. So this is a really big pet peeve, and it can add a lot of time to your tracking throughout the day if you're having to double check and make sure everything you put in is accurate. MyFitnessPal does sometimes put a green check mark next to some of the foods on the list and say, hey, this particular item is verified by MyFitnessPal. That helps, but unfortunately I have found sometimes those numbers aren't correct either. Okay, let's talk about Avatar Nutrition. Now, Avatar, while it does have a tracking function to it, it's primarily a service that tells you exactly what your macros should be. So while these two services are comparable, they are not exactly the same. MyFitnessPal exists primarily as a tracking app, which does give you calorie and macro recommendations if you want them. And on the flip side, Avatar is a service that gives you calorie and macro recommendations and has a tracker you can use if you want to use it. So first of all, the best thing about Avatar is the macros are legit. The company was founded and run by strength and conditioning coaches, nutritionists, and registered dietitians. So these are people who are actually doing this kind of work every single day. So let me give you a breakdown of how Avatar Nutrition works. You give them your metrics like your height, age, weight, activity level, and so on, and they create custom macros for you. You track your macros either in their system or another tracking app. At the end of the week, you log your average weight and whether or not you were compliant with the target macros that they gave you. If you were compliant and you lost a certain amount of weight, your macros will stay the same. If you didn't lose weight or didn't lose enough weight, they will automatically adjust them. And same thing, if you lost weight too quickly, it will also gently bump them up a little bit to help protect your metabolism. So this takes the guesswork out of it for those of you who don't have a nutrition coach to work with. I can say, as someone that's able to do their own macros, I personally found Avatar Nutrition very helpful because it was an objective system telling me, hey, eat this much. When you're in control of your own program, sometimes you tend to bend the rules for yourself, even though you shouldn't. After I had dealt with my heart issues a few years ago, my weight had steadily climbed up and plateaued around 315 pounds. I dieted off the first 10 to 15 pounds myself, and then I started using Avatar Nutrition around the 300-pound mark, and I used that system to diet all the way down to 250 pounds. So I will vouch for the system. It does work. The macros are very good. And I did have Katie, who is the nutritionist at Architect, take a look at the macros that Avatar was giving me. And she said, yes, these are very close to what I would have given you. So I do have a lot of faith in the system that the numbers they give you are correct. So that is by far the best part, is that the numbers are good. And that is something I cannot say about MyFitnessPal. Now let's talk about Avatar Nutrition as a tracking system. Interestingly, they actually don't have an app. What they have is a mobile website, and you can save a quick button to your your phone's home screen. So the functionality from a user standpoint, it seems just like an app. Some things that I really like about the Avatar tracking system are that they have a third party that is entering in the food items for their food database. So while their database might not be quite as big as MyFitnessPal's, you have more confidence in the foods that you find because they're being checked by a professional organization that's inputting that information. So you don't have to worry about it being user entered and being incorrect. Another thing that I absolutely love about their system is the foods in their system are typically only measured by ounces or grams. Now, I prefer to weigh all my food, so this is very convenient for me. The problem with MyFitnessPal would be, and this is a great example, I usually have 100 grams of berries with my breakfast, 50 of those grams coming from raspberries and 50 of those grams coming from blackberries. When I'm tracking that in MyFitnessPal and you pull up the serving sizes for raspberries, you have ounces, you have grams, and a few other options. When you pull up blackberries, even though it's a verified food, there is no option for grams. This is ludicrous to me because raspberries and blackberries are so similar. They're two foods that you probably would be eating together, and yet the measurement system in MyFitnessPal is so much different from one item to the next. And again, this goes back to a lot of it being user generated. For example, sometimes you would go to track a pizza and maybe you'd weigh your slice of pizza and say, hey, I had a 200-gram slice of pizza. And you go into MyFitnessPal and the only option for pizza is one slice or two slices. Well, is that a slice of a 15-inch pizza or a 10-inch pizza? Was the pizza cut into 8 slices or 10 slices? All of these things matter, and they don't really make sense if you're trying to accurately track your food. With Avatar, you only usually have the option of ounces or grams, which makes life very straightforward, as it should be. Okay, next let's talk about the two features that make Avatar absolutely amazing and are totally worth it just for these two things. The first is the Carb and Fat Slider. Now, anyone that knows nutrition science will tell you that calories are the most important thing, followed by protein when you're trying to lose weight. Hitting your total calories and your protein is the most important thing. That means the remainder of your calories after protein has been met can come from either fats or carbs, and the ratio of which actually doesn't impact fat loss that much. So that means that fats and carbs are interchangeable. Where people get very confused when they're trying to swap carbs for fats or vice versa is that they are not a 1 gram to 1 gram swap, because fat has 9 calories per gram and carbs only have 4 calories per gram. Avatar makes swapping carbs for fats or vice versa very easy by way of their Carb and Fat Slider. And I'll give you an example of how this works. Let's say that you've hit your protein and carbs for the day. All you have left is fat to eat, but you really want something that's pure carbs and you don't have any foods in mind that are only just fats. So you can actually use the slider on the system to take away from your fat calories and add to your carbohydrate calories. And this makes it so simple because you don't have to do any math. You can just move the slider and adjust it as needed and then still be compliant for that day. And that brings me on to the next feature that I think is absolutely amazing, and that is the moving targets function. Now, Avatar defines being compliant with your macros as in being within plus or minus 10 grams of your target protein, within plus or minus 10 grams of your target carbs, and within plus or minus 5 grams of your target fat for the day, but also over a weekly average. And this makes sense because although we're trying to hit our macros every single day, it's really, have we been compliant over a week's average time? Because a single day isn't going to determine our results. If we hit our macros one day, we're not going to lose a ton of weight. If we don't hit our macros one day, we're not going to gain a ton of weight. However, we are what we repeatedly do. So it makes sense to look at it on a weekly average. So the way moving targets work is if I overeat on maybe, let's say, carbs today, Avatar will subtract carbs from the next day or the next few days, depending on how you have your moving targets set, so I can still be compliant for the whole week. And the same thing goes if I undereat today, then I'll get some extra calories tomorrow or spread out over the next few days, again, depending on your moving target setting. This makes being consistent and compliant over a week's average so much easier. Of course, you could do something like this manually by doing the math when you're using a tracker like MyFitnessPal, but again, anything you can do to simplify the process is going to help you be more adherent to the program. And at the end of the day, it's not that people don't know what to do to get in better shape and lose weight. It's sticking to the plan that's the hard part. So anything you can do to make that easier is going to be a major win. Okay, enough gushing about Avatar nutrition. It is not a perfect system, so let's talk about some of the things that I don't like about it. First, this is pretty minor, but you cannot customize the meal names within the tracker. So they have breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, and then other. It's a minor thing, but it does kind of bother me a little bit. Okay, so now I'm gonna tell you about my two absolute biggest pet peeves with Avatar. So Katie, Mark, everybody at Avatar, everyone's great, but the barcode scanner kind of sucks on the Avatar tracker. If you are a member of the Avatar Facebook community, which is a great resource, you will probably have seen other people complain about this as well. I'm sure they're working on it. I'm sure it's going to get better, but there have been times when my camera has a crystal clear view of the barcode. It's perfect lighting. There's no reflection. Everything's flat. There's no wrinkles. Everything's in focus, and the scanner just can't get it. That can be super frustrating. Again, there's always a workaround. You could just manually type in the food you're searching for. Of course, if it's not in there, you could always just manually enter in the macros themselves. So there are workarounds, but I do find the barcode scanner on tracking apps to be really helpful, and I just wish the Avatar one worked a little bit better. My next pet peeve is if you're like me, you probably eat a lot of the same foods on a regular basis. For example, I pretty much eat the same breakfast every single day. And to save myself time, I copy food from one day to the next. Now, MyFitnessPal and Avatar's tracker both have this function. However, in MyFitnessPal, if I were to go to yesterday's breakfast and copy it to today, as soon as I'm done copying it, the page would refresh to today's journal. Avatar's tracker does not do that. So if I were to go to yesterday's diary in Avatar and copy yesterday's breakfast to today, it would leave me on yesterday's journal entry. And the reason this drives me nuts is I was so used to MyFitnessPal refreshing to today that I would copy a meal and then I'd go to make edits to that, and I'd actually be editing yesterday's entry thinking I was on today. Once I realized what I was doing, I would have to stop, re-enter everything into yesterday so yesterday was correct, then go back to today, make the changes I was going to make in the first place. Again, it's small. It is technically my fault. However, this is something that drives me absolutely nuts. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, and I really wish after you copied a meal from one day to the next, it automatically brought you back to today's entry since you are usually working on today. All right, so let's wrap this up. I know I didn't talk about every single feature that both Avatar and MFP have. This was just an overview so everyone can get an idea of what the differences are. Which one do I think is better? Well, if you're only looking for something to track your food, so for example, if you are working with a nutrition coach one-on-one and they're providing you with macros and calorie targets, I would say probably just go with MyFitnessPal. The premium version is a little bit less expensive at this point in time than Avatar, and if you just need a tracker, it works okay. If you are someone that is looking for a little more guidance and needs objective information on how much to eat, Avatar hands down. I would not trust the MyFitnessPal recommendations, and Avatar has some features that really make it easy to be compliant, and they also have a great community that you can reach out to with their staff and get answers and guidance on how to hit your nutritional goals. So while I do think that Avatar does need to make a couple tweaks to continue to make their tracker a little bit better as a service, if you're serious about losing weight or making serious changes to your nutrition and health, I gotta go with Avatar. Now, at the time of this video, January 2020, the Avatar system is $19.99 a month, or I believe $99 for a whole year if you prepay. However, we do have a 10% coupon code available for anyone that's watching this video. So if you want to get 10% off your Avatar subscription, click the link in the description of this video and use the code KODDY, all caps, at checkout to get 10% off. And that is Katie Audie, who is our nutrition coach at Architect. She hooked up the discount through Avatar, so thank you to Katie for that. Again, if you want to get 10% off your subscription, click the link in the description. You have to go through that link and then use the coupon code KODDY. If there's a feature on either of these systems you think I left out, please let me know. I certainly haven't explored both of them to their full potential. I know they both have some functionality that I haven't used yet. If you have any questions, post a comment to this video or send me an email, tony@architectfitness.com. Thanks everyone so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.